This is new reporting coming in from our colleague Betsy Klein, who reports that the President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris called into an all-campaign staff call just moments ago. This was described by a source as being a pep talk, and that both of them in this call described the stakes of the election. Near the end of the call, the president said, let's go win this. And as you mentioned, there are other efforts coming in the campaign, in the White House as well, as a lot of folks, a lot of staffers, aides that are working in the campaign in the White House are really worried about the future of the 2024 campaign. And of course, all of this is coming with the new reporting that President Biden has privately acknowledged to an ally that he understands that the next couple of days, the next stretch of days is going to be incredibly important in terms of whether or not he can actually save his candidacy. And what I think is interesting, Boris, to note is that we are seeing the president finally starting to get a little bit more involved himself. There's that big interview that he is doing on Friday with ABC News.
This is so funny because he's going to knock out the ABC interview. He might have like one kind of off moment, but he's going to fucking cook up the ABC interview. And then every of the most annoying Democratic Party fucking mouthpieces, the loyalists who did not actually say Biden should drop out because they're careerist pieces of shit who don't give a fuck about the future of the Democratic Party, nor the future of American democracy, really, and only care about their career prospects, are going to chirp about it endlessly. Meanwhile, it's not going to move the needle. 80% of the country think he's too old. What a ridiculous crock of shit this is, dude. The only reason why Biden isn't dropping out currently is because it's not even that he wants to go through the finish line. It's that he wants to qualify. They're trying to push his ass through the qualifiers so that he can't be a fucking replacement. You already know that they've been running the clock. The problem is now the media can't hide it any longer. They're not even interested in hiding it any longer. They're just fucking lasering him. And that's the problem now for the Democratic Party and for the Biden re-election. Their campaign strategy thus far quite literally was to stop Biden from having too many press moments because they knew what it was. They knew that they were rolling out a fucking carcass. By the way, that was the campaign strategy for the 2020 election as well, the primaries. They literally did that shit in the fucking primaries, man. A once in a lifetime biblical style like pandemic epidemiological incident, dude. What are we talking about? I've never seen someone get so many hard carries. And then Roe v. Wade happens. Finally, Donald Trump Supreme Court turns around and actually follows through on their 35-year project, their 40-year project, their massive commitment to undermining women's bodily autonomy. And then the midterms that are supposed to be a fucking red wave because of negative real wage growth that Americans experience for 2 fucking years for the most part, all of a sudden turns into a battle for civil liberties and bodily autonomy for women. Another fucking hard carry. Not a single one of these instances was Joe Biden's doing. Joe Biden is not God. He didn't fucking make COVID. Joe Biden won Super Tuesday after getting carried by the entire Democratic Party primary candidates dropping out to endorse him after phone calls from Barack Obama. He got carried by Obama in that situation. So no, I think people need to recognize something fundamentally important here. It's not just that Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is a fucking failure. Like personally, ultimately, he's a bad fucking politician, dude. He's not a good politician. He was floated into the VP position because he's a gaffe guy, because he was known for kissing babies as a retail politician and doing gaffes. He was a goofy, somewhat racist, old white guy. Vice presidential picks are supposed to be a good counter. What are your areas of weakness? If you're Barack Hussein Obama, well, it's the fact that you're black. That's a pretty big fucking hurdle for a lot of white supremacist Americans to clear. And when I say white supremacist Americans, I'm not saying like the Klan robe wearers, okay? I'm saying like your uncle or your grandparents who never forgave Obama for fucking up the country. That's because he was black. They hated him because he was black. That's it. I hate him for good reasons. They hate him because he's black. Biden was elevated to the position of VP, which gave him the additional bona fides, the additional confidence from the black voting bloc in South Carolina as Obama's vice president. But the real reason why he was picked as Obama's vice president, another moment of elevation in his political career full of L's. Anytime Biden has put himself out there on his own, he's taken L's. I'm not just talking about the fact that like his entire family's dead. Anyone who's ever talked to keeps mysteriously dying. He's the fucking griever in chief or anything like that. I'm talking specifically on pure politics. Joe Biden is a bad politician because he is a fucking hack. What do I mean by this? Comedians who are hacks do one thing. They repeat bottom of the barrel, lowest common denominator jokes. Politicians who are fucking hacks do a similar thing in the realm of politics. They look at focus testing and they go for smack dab in the fucking middle of that and consistently retriangulate their position right into the fucking center. That is Biden to a fucking T. finding the center and dialing the fuck in. Which Joe Biden is your favorite? In 1991, attacked Anita Hill. 1994, wrote disastrous crime bill. 1995, wrote omnibus counterterrorism act, later became Patriot Act. 1996, voted against gay marriage. 1999, repealed Glass-Steagall Act. 2001, voted for the Patriot Act. 2002, voted for Iraq War. 2005, voted to end bankruptcy protections for students. 2024, complicit in genocide and rise of the far right. Yeah, I mean, this is just nothing. This is like reductive. It's basically the fucking high notes, or I guess the low notes. Biden and his motivations can perhaps be best understood not so dissimilar way to Donald Trump. Narcissism. He feels like he has been treated wrong and been called a fucking loser his entire political career. And that's because he is a fucking loser. He was a fucking loser when in 2016, Barack Obama called him up and said, don't fucking run, Joe. Now, I go back on that because I think in 2016, if Joe Biden was a candidate, Donald Trump would not have been president. But that's besides the point. We're not going to talk about that right now. But when Barack Obama called him up and said, hey, Joe, you don't want to finish third place behind Hillary Clinton. You don't want to finish third place behind Bernie Sanders in a fucking Iowa motel. You know, your son just died. Take a fucking day off. Don't do this. You don't want to get that call that you got fucking third place in a goddamn Iowa motel in a fucking empty conference room. That's what Obama told him. So he dropped out in 2016. Big mistake for America. Big mistake for the Democratic Party. That's besides the point. Overall, he lost. He ran for president time and time again since the fucking 80s, and he lost. He got elevated to vice president, used that momentum to try to run for president again in 2016. His fucking own president said, don't do that. And he dropped out. 2020, he runs after Charlottesville. Charlottesville really motivated him. You know, he's like, oh, I'm going to defeat American Nazism, whatever the fuck he's saying. No, the real reason why he ran was because he's a narcissistic piece of shit. And as much as we joke about Hillary Clinton, it's my time, it's her time, it's her time. That's precisely the reason why Joe Brandon ran. Because he said, I've been a fucking career institutionalist. I'm going to get my fucking licks in. And that's precisely what happened. And that's precisely the reason why he's not dropping out today. I need you to understand. The reason why he's not dropping out today is because in his mind, he is very, and I mean very thin-skinned about the way people are treating him currently. He is in that situation no different than Donald Trump. It's all ego. Because if democracy was really on the fucking ballot, as I have said time and time again, if democracy truly was on the fucking ballot, you really think we have to preserve the ego of a 850-year-old carcass, a cadaver? So which is it? Is Donald Trump not actually going to destroy American democracy? Theoretical democracy. America's never really had a real democracy. Let's be real. No practical democracy, but a theoretical one. Democracy is on the fucking ballot. Then we cannot succumb to the narcissistic desires and the vindictive, selfish, petulant attitude of a demented, senile person. It's one or the other. Is democracy actually on the fucking ballot? Because if so, we can't do that. Are we actually saying it's his turn? Again, he's done so much. Don't hurt his little fucking feelings. He's done so much for America. He's been a senator for 700 years. He was there when the founding happened. He was one of the original framers in the background. So he deserves to be president. And if that's your attitude, then you can't say Donald Trump is going to destroy this country. Because if the stakes are that high, you have to meet the stakes. You can't just fucking roll out the cadaver and be like, listen, 80% of the country says, 80% of Democrats say he needs to go, but we're just not going to listen to them. We're going to put forward a weaker candidate.